Want to know something spooky? This is my 23rd upload. What better way to celebrate this uninteresting milestone with an uninteresting movie? If you ask me, the number 23 is a bit of an obscure movie that showcases one of Jim Carrey's darkest roles. But here's the thing, even though Jim is pretty good in both roles, this movie really frustrated me. The movie had plenty of issues I couldn't get over in both the story department and the making of, which is a big focus of this channel. The problems with the plot bothered me the most since I'm very easy to please. I mean, look at my upload history. I pretty much find excitement in almost everything regardless of how bad it is. But the number 23 felt more convenient than from what I encountered before. Here's a quick plot overview. The number 23 stars Jim Carrey as Walter Sparrow, a regular guy with a steady job and a loving family. One day, his wife gives him a novel called The Number 23, about a detective named Fingerling who becomes obsessed with a strange number that starts to haunt him. As Walter gets deeper into the book, he notices the story starts to mirror his own life. Soon, he becomes just as obsessed, leading him to try and uncover the mystery behind the book's author. It's a fine premise, but like I mentioned earlier, the story needed some... The movie itself had way too many things it wanted us to accept that I just didn't buy. I'll keep it short to 3 examples. The biggest one that bothered me the most was when we do meet the author's actions don't make sense once we piece together the ending. Like no. 2. When the cops showed up to the park, you're telling me that this twist individual had the time to remove all the evidence? Really? And 3. The meet cute is dumb and she's never been curious about his past or questioned him? Really? The logic leaps it tried to pull did not work on me whatsoever. I watched it a number of times for this video and they weren't as egregious the second or third time watching it. The second part of my frustration was in putting all this together. For research, I spent quite an amount of time listening to interviews, listening to podcasts, watching behind the scenes, and looking up all the major parties involved to piece together the development. But man, this was a pain. There was nothing out there to dive deep into, and the interviews I found were dead ends. There were a lot of discussions surrounding the superstitious occurrences of the number showing up in their everyday lives. Like, that's not interesting. Felt very astrologic-y to me. Regardless, for production, this is what I could piece together. In 2002, associate producer Alyssa Ferguson came across a script titled The Number 23 and absolutely loved it. This script, written by Friendly Phillips, was his attempt into Hollywood. This was his Hail Mary, as if it didn't work out for him, he had no choice than to go back home with his remaining $20. Fortunately for him, he had penned a story that captivated the minds of its readers. Ferguson and Fernie teamed up and started pushing it through the Hollywood pipeline. However, progress was slow. So slow, in fact, that Alyssa and Fernie actually fell in love and got married. Aww. And that's the last information I could find on Phillips. He hasn't done anything ever since. I wanted to know what compelled him to write about the 23 phenomenon and what inspired him, but there's no information available. The script eventually landed with Joel Schumacher, who was drawn to its unique storyline, and he signed on immediately.
It was offered to me when I was just finishing Tigerland, which I made in 2000, and my producer, Beau Flynn, gave me it. He said, I've just optioned a first-time writer's script, and I think you would like this. And I loved it. I thought it was unique, I thought it was fresh, I thought it was totally original. I am always looking for something I haven't made before, and that hopefully it would stretch me as a director, and I would learn new things, and also hopefully whether the audience knows my name or not is unimportant, but give the audience, paying audience, something fresh, something not like what everyone else is doing.
While reading, he knew only Jim Carrey could play the everyday man of Sparrow and go dark enough for Fingerling. Script forwarded. After adding up his entire directorial filmography, he realized that this would be his 23rd film to be directed. Creepy. At the same time, Jim Carrey was already aware of the 23 enigma that he was in the beginning stages of going through the rabbit hole himself. In various interviews, he mentions that he was in the middle of reading a book about Psalm 23 when he received the script. His decision to take on the role was cemented within the opening scene where his character is taking on a pit bull. This means nothing to us, but apparently Jim Carrey had changed his production company from Pitbull Productions to JC23 within the last year. Creepy again.
I actually changed the name of my company to JC23 a couple of years ago because I've had kind of an obsession with this number for a long time.
It was handed to me by a friend named Wayne, who was in one of those pictures, Wayne Fleming, in Canada. He would always point out license plates and things like that and say, it adds up to 23, man. Toronto Maple Leafs has won the Stanley Cup 23 times. You know, New York Yankees have won the World Series 23 times, you know, beginning in 1923. And he drove me crazy with it. Right. And then I started seeing it everywhere. And eventually I changed the name of my company to JC23. And then I got the script out of nowhere. And it was just so parallel and weird.
And that's all the information I could find about the movie. Can you guess when the movie was released?
New movie, a psychological thriller called The Number 23. It's terrific. It opens next Friday on February 23rd. What are the odds of that?
The movie was released on February 23rd, 2007. It was in direct competition with another Virginia Madsen movie that was premiering on that same day. That one didn't stand a chance. The Number 23 opened second in the box office behind Ghost Rider and ahead of Bridge to Terabithia with $15 million opening. The movie had a $30 million budget and eventually grossed $35 million in the US and $42 million internationally, bringing its worldwide total to $77 million. It runs for 98 minutes and is rated R for violence, disturbing images, sexuality, and language. It falls under the crime, mystery, and psychological thriller genres. The reviews are something. IMDb has it at a 6.4 out of 10. Metacritic has the reviews as unavailable, and the Letterboxd has it at a 2.7 out of 5. Rotten Tomatoes has the critics score at an astounding 7%, while the audience found more enjoyment in it, giving it a collective 56%. 7% is wild.
You okay? What's going on? What is that? What are you doing? Is that a lottery ball? C23. What is
C23. C23 this Friday, February 23rd.
That is the cheesiest way to promote a film I've ever seen on television.
Jim Carrey was born on January 17th, 1962 in Newmarket, Canada. Jim Carrey plays the role of Walter Sparrow, the dog catcher whose life is turned upside down as the mystery of the number takes a hold of him. He also plays the role of Fingerling, the fictional detective from the novel. Prior to The Number 23, he was in a series of unfortunate events in 2004 and Fun with Dick and Jane in 2005. Afterwards, he was in Horton Hears a Who and Yes Man, both released in 2008. Virginia Madsen was born on September 11, 1961 in Chicago, Illinois. Virginia plays the role of Agatha Sparrow, Walter's wife that innocently gives him the book that triggers his descent into madness. She also portrays Fabrizia, Fingerling's girlfriend from the novel. Prior to 23, she was in A Prairie Home Companion in 2006, and in 2007 she had a string of movies coming out. Both The Astronaut Farmer and The Number 23 were released on the same day, followed by The Ripple Effect later that year. Lastly, she was in the Wonder Woman animated movie in 2009. Joel Schumacher was born on August 29, 1939 in New York, New York, and passed on June 22, 2020. The Number 23 was Schumacher and Carrey's second film together. Prior to The Number 23, Schumacher directed Veronica Guerin in 2003, followed by the three-time Oscar-nominated film The Phantom of the Opera in 2004. After 23, he directed Blood Creek in 2009, followed by 12 in 2010. If you've seen any of the movies I've mentioned here, comment below. I'm curious to see which of these obscure movies have a following. If not, browse through my page for other movie breakdowns. Finally, here are some actors from this film that shared the screen in a different movie.
Situations.
The big boys want to see you upstairs.
Which floor? 20th? 26th? 32nd? Not the 51st!
Yes.
Colonel?
Not now, Kayla.
I've done everything you've asked. My sister. You said if I helped you, you'd let her go.